The sirens hadn't even faded when she laughed at me, and somehow that was the moment my entire life began to unravel. Or maybe it began when I tripped over my own boot on a freezing New York sidewalk, coffee exploding across my coat like I had been shot by a caffeinated assassin. Either way, fate clearly had a twisted sense of humor that day. I didn't know it yet, but everything that would follow, the embarrassment, the chaos, the ridiculous stumble, would lead me to her. And it all started with the woman I thought I was saving, but who, in the end, was saving me in ways I couldn't understand back then. Her name was Lila. She was the homeless woman I had been helping for 2 years. A quiet presence on the corner of West 42nd and 9th, wrapped in layers of mismatched jackets regardless of the season. She had gentle eyes, the kind that suggested she carried stories she never wanted to tell. Every morning on my way to work, I'd bring her a warm drink and a bagel. Every evening, I'd walk her to the shelter if she agreed to go. Sometimes she refused and stayed under the awning of the old hardware store, but she always thanked me with a small, soft smile. People thought I helped her out of pity. They didn't understand that she helped me just as much. I was alone in the city, not homeless, not hungry, but emotionally drifting, completely unanchored. Lila, with her quiet presence and strangely wise remarks, became my one constant in the unpredictable rhythm of New York. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The morning that everything changed began as an ordinary winter disaster. Snow plagued the sidewalks, turning to a slushy mess under hundreds of hurried footsteps. I had overslept for the 3rd day in a row, and my boss had already sent me a not-so-subtle reminder that lateness accumulates like interest. No pressure. I was rushing down the street when a taxi splashed an Olympic wave of icy water straight at me. I dodged. Badly. That's when I tripped, spilled my coffee, and performed a tragic interpretive dance across the concrete. And from behind me came the sound of laughter. Not cruel, not mocking. Warm. Familiar. I turned and there she was. Lila. Sitting cross-legged on a folded tarp, her hands cupped around the steaming cup of hot chocolate I had brought her 10 minutes earlier. "You okay?" she asked, smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "Fine," I groaned, trying to peel my dignity off the pavement. "Just testing gravity. Works great." She chuckled again, a soft breath of sound that somehow warmed me more than my lost coffee ever could. She reached out a gloved hand and helped me up, surprising me with her strength. "Rough morning," she said. "You're telling me." And then she looked at me with an expression I had never seen before. A mix of hesitation and certainty, as though she had been waiting a long time to speak a sentence she still wasn't sure she should voice. "You should skip work today." I blinked. "What?" "Just for today," she said. "Trust me." Trust me. 2 words that normally would have bounced off the walls of skepticism inside my head. But Lila was different. She had an uncanny instinct for things. A strange intuition that told her when the subway would break down, when a storm would hit early, when a person needed help before they even spoke. Still skipping work? Out of the question. Except, something in the air felt different. Heavy. Expectant. "Lila, if I skip work, You won't regret it," she interrupted. "I promise." There are moments in life when logic loses to intuition. When you know without knowing why, that you're standing at the edge of something important. So, against every responsible instinct I had, I nodded slowly. "Okay," I said. "But what do I do instead?" She pointed across the street, to a small photography exhibit being set up under a temporary tent. Soft lights strung in gentle loops. Prints hung carefully along the walls. People bustling around with canvases and coils of wire. "Go there," she said simply. "Something is waiting for you." Something. Someone. My breath caught before I could stop it. "Lila, what are you talking about?" But she just smiled her mysterious smile. The one that always made me wonder what she saw in the world that I didn't. "You'll understand," she whispered. I hesitated. Looked at the exhibit. Looked back at her. "Will you be okay?" I asked. She nodded. "I always am." She wasn't. Not really. But she believed in letting people choose kindness freely, not out of obligation. So I squeezed her hand gently and crossed the street. And that was the moment I stepped into the current of a river that was already sweeping me toward the person who would change my life. The tent was warm inside, the heaters humming softly. The smell of fresh prints and varnished wood filled the air. There were a dozen artists arranging their work. Photographs of cityscapes drenched in sunset gold. Portraits of strangers with eyes full of silent stories. Moments frozen in time. But one person stood out. She was adjusting a frame on the far wall, her back to me. Long auburn curls cascaded down her sweater, catching the string lights and glowing like fire. She was slender, graceful, wearing jeans ripped at the knees and boots splattered with dried paint. Not a photographer's outfit. More like an artist who had wandered in from another world. When she stepped back to admire her work, I saw her face. And I forgot how to breathe. She was beautiful in a way that didn't try to be. Soft, expressive features. A concentration crease on her brow. Eyes the color of warm whiskey, gentle yet fierce, like they had seen enough darkness to appreciate the light. I had no idea who she was, but something inside me stirred, awakening with terrifying clarity. This is the someone. But before I could gather the courage to approach her, she spoke without turning. "You're standing too close to the heater," she said. "You'll fog up the prints." I blinked. "I what?" "How did you?" She finally turned, and our eyes collided in a spark that felt physical. She looked at me as if she had expected me, as if she had been waiting, and then she smiled, small and breathtaking. "Hi," she said softly. "I'm Rowan." Her voice was warm, slightly husky, like a melody spoken instead of sung. I'm Ava," I managed to say, trying not to collapse under the sudden gravity in my chest. "Ava." She repeated it as if testing the shape of my name in her mouth. "Beautiful." My pulse stumbled. Rowan tilted her head slightly, studying me. "You look like someone who didn't plan to be here today." "I didn't," I admitted. "Someone told me to come." "Someone wise," she murmured. I laughed nervously. "You don't even know them." She smiled again, this time softer. "I can tell from you." It was absurd the way her words reached inside me, as though she understood things about me that even I didn't understand. I looked at the photograph she'd been hanging. It was a portrait of a woman sitting alone on a bench at dawn, backlit by a faint pink glow, her silhouette slightly hunched. The image somehow felt both lonely and hopeful. "It's beautiful," I said. Rowan's eyes warmed. "Thank you. It's one of my favorites. The woman in the picture. She reminded me of someone I used to know." Her voice drifted off, weighted with something unspoken. I didn't push. Instead, I let the silence settle around us like a soft snowfall. After a moment, Rowan looked at me again. "Would you like to see the rest?" she asked. "Yes," I breathed. And so she led me through the exhibit, walking slowly, explaining her work with a mix of passion and vulnerability that made my chest ache. The way she saw the world was different, gentle, raw, honest. I couldn't help stealing glances at her when she wasn't looking. The way her curls bounced lightly as she walked. The way her eyes lit up when she spoke about capturing emotion. The small scar above her eyebrow. The faint freckles dusted across her nose. Everything about her felt like a deep breath after years of suffocating. When we finished, she turned to me with a shy smile. "I'm glad you came today," Rowan said quietly. "Me too," I whispered. But just as the moment hung between us like a delicate thread of possibility, a gust of cold wind blew into the tent as someone entered. I turned instinctively toward the flap, and my heart stopped. It was Lila. Except, not the Lila I knew. She wasn't wearing layers of mismatched jackets. She wasn't wrapped in old blankets. She wasn't hunched or shivering or silent. She stood tall, clean, dressed in a simple but elegant coat. Her hair brushed and free. Her face warm and open in a way I had never seen before. She looked whole. "Lila," I whispered. Her smile trembled. "Ava." Rowan inhaled sharply. And in that moment I realized they knew each other. And whatever their connection was, it was about to change everything. Rowan's face shifted first. A flicker barely perceptible but enough. Like a candle trembling in a sudden draft. She stood utterly still, her eyes fixed on Lila with a mixture of shock and something else, something that looked dangerously like longing. I didn't understand. Not until Lila stepped closer, her voice gentler than I'd ever heard it. "Rowan," she whispered. "You kept the curls." Rowan's lips parted. Her breath hitched. It felt like the air in the tent crystallized around them, fragile as thin ice. I thought you were dead, Rowan said, her voice trembling. And the world around me seemed to tilt. Dead? Lila looked away, shame crossing her features like a shadow. I know. You disappeared. No note. No call. Nothing. Rowan's voice cracked on the last word. For 2 years. 2 years. The same 2 years I had known Lila. My throat tightened. My mind raced, trying to fit the pieces into some recognizable shape. I had known Lila for that long. Helped her through 2 brutal winters. She had told me fragments of her past but never mentioned anyone significant. Never mentioned a connection like this. Never mentioned Rowan. Rowan took a step forward, then stopped as though the weight of the moment pressed her back. Why? Rowan whispered. Why did you leave me like that? Lila's eyes glistened. She swallowed hard. I didn't leave you. Not the way you think. Then tell me what way it was. The silence that followed held a lifetime of ache. I felt like an intruder, like someone who had stumbled into a room uninvited. But I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Because somehow I was in the center of this web, tangled in threads I didn't even know existed until now. Lila finally turned to me. Ava, she said softly. I should have told you. Told me what? My voice came out small. That Rowan is my daughter. The words hit me so hard I swayed. Rowan closed her eyes, pain tightening her expression. She's not my mother, she whispered. Not anymore. Rowan, Lila breathed. I felt like I was falling through memories I didn't own. The way Lila looked at the dawn. The way she gazed at the horizon, sometimes with tears in her eyes. The way she collected small pieces of trash like they were treasures, perhaps they had meant something once. The way she spoke to me, sometimes like a woman who had lived too many lives, sometimes like someone who lost one too soon. Her daughter. Her daughter. And Rowan looked at her not with hatred, but with the agonizing love of someone who had been abandoned and never healed. I didn't leave because I wanted to, Lila whispered. I left because I thought disappearing was the only way you could survive without my mistakes crushing you. Rowan's voice rose sharply. You broke me. You broke everything. I waited 2 years, thinking I wasn't enough to keep you alive. I didn't want you to see me like that, Lila cried. I was already losing myself. I couldn't let you watch me fall apart. You could have asked for help. I didn't know how. She broke on those words. I'd never seen Lila cry. Not once. Not when the temperatures dropped so low her fingers turned purple. Not when her food got stolen. Not when she was turned away from shelters. But now tears spilled down her cheeks freely. Grief, regret, guilt, all the things she had carried silently on the cold pavement for 2 years. Rowan stepped back like the ground had given way beneath her. I thought you were dead, she repeated, voice thinner now. I wanted you to think I was okay, Lila said. I didn't realize that disappearing would hurt you more. The tent was silent except for the distant wind outside. I felt my heart twisting painfully, caught between 2 women who were both hurting more deeply than anything I'd ever known. And still a small fearful voice inside me whispered a question I didn't dare say out loud. What does this mean for me? For Rowan and me? For this strange, impossible connection forming between us from the moment our eyes met? Rowan's gaze flicked toward me suddenly, as though remembering I existed. Her expression softened instantly, guilt washing over her features. Ava, she whispered. I'm sorry you had to hear all this. I'm not, I said quietly. Maybe you both needed someone else here. Rowan's eyes glistened, not with tears, with something like gratitude, or relief, or maybe simply recognition. But Lila wasn't looking at me at all. She was looking at Rowan the way a mother looks at a child she never stopped loving, even through the distance of years. I wanted to come back, Lila said. Every day. But then I felt I didn't deserve to. And what about me? Rowan asked. Did I deserve the silence? No, Lila breathed. You deserved everything I couldn't give you. Their pain spilled between them like shattered glass. Dangerous. Beautiful. Real. I took a slow step back. My chest ached with something I couldn't name. Rowan noticed, her eyes widening. Ava, wait. I forced a small smile. It's okay. You should talk to her. You need to. Rowan hesitated, torn between 2 worlds for a split second, a world she had lost, and a world she had barely begun with me. She reached out, her fingers brushing mine in the gentlest plea. "Please stay," she whispered. And it broke me. 'Cause I wanted to. More than anything. But this moment wasn't mine. So I shook my head softly. "You two should do this alone." Rowan's hand lingered in the air for a heartbeat, then fell slowly. Her eyes followed me as I stepped through the tense opening and out into the cold. The wind slapped my cheeks with icy fingers, but the ache in my chest was sharper. I didn't walk far. Just to the sidewalk outside, where I leaned against a lamppost and tried to breathe. The city moved around me in its usual chaotic rhythm. Honking cars, rushing footsteps, snow slush splattering under tires. But everything felt distant, muffled, like I was watching the world through frosted glass. My connection with Rowan had been instant, undeniable. But now I saw the tangled roots beneath it. Past I didn't know existed. A wound deeper than I could have imagined. And yet the part of me that had come alive the moment Rowan smiled at me wouldn't quiet down. I closed my eyes. For a long moment, I let the cold settle into my bones. Then I heard footsteps. Soft. Hesitant. I opened my eyes. Rowan stood in front of me, cheeks flushed from the cold and something like fear in her eyes. "Shouldn't you be talking to her?" I asked. "I should be," she whispered. "But right now, I need you." The words pulled the breath out of my lungs. "Rowan, this is messy," I said gently. "I know. And complicated. I know. And painful. I know." She stepped closer, her hands slipping into her coat pockets like she needed them anchored. The wind tossed her curls across her face, but she didn't look away from me. "When I saw you this morning," she said slowly, "I felt something I haven't felt in years. A shift. Like the world rearranged itself by a fraction. I haven't stopped feeling it since." My heart stumbled. "I barely know you," I whispered. "Then let me fix that," she said softly. "Let me know you." I swallowed hard. "But Lila is my mother," Rowan said, voice both tender and fractured. "She came back into my life today. And that means I have years of pain and questions and healing ahead of me. But none of that changes what happened when I looked at you." Her voice trembled. "None of it changes the way my chest feels right now. I felt the pull between us like a tide. I felt the fear too. And the uncertainty. But beneath it all, something steadier, warm like a hand on the heart." Rowan stepped forward until she was just a breath away. "I'm not asking for anything big," she said. "Just a chance. Just today. Or tomorrow. Or whenever you're ready. But what if I get in the way of what you need to fix with her?" I whispered. She shook her head gently. "You won't. You're not taking me away from anyone. You're just arriving." The words hit me with their quiet beauty. Before I could answer, a soft voice drifted behind us. "I was hoping you'd talk to her." We turned. Lila stood a few feet away, wrapped in her coat, her eyes soft and tired but clearer than any day I'd ever known her. "I didn't come to take anything from anyone," Lila said. "Least of all my daughter's chance at happiness." Rowan blinked fast, emotion choking her. "Lila," I whispered, "are you okay?" She gave a small bittersweet smile. "For the first time in years. I think I might be." She looked at Rowan with a quiet reverence. "I don't expect forgiveness, but if you'll let me, I'd like to earn a place in your life again. Even if it's small. Even if it takes years." Rowan wiped her cheek. "You came back. That's a start." Their eyes met. Something shifted. Something healed just enough to breathe again. Then Rowan slipped her hand into mine, threading our fingers together with a softness that felt like hope itself. Lila saw it and her smile grew. "Be good to each other," she whispered. "Life is short. And love, real love, is rare." My throat tightened. Rowan squeezed my hand. And for the first time that day, the cold didn't feel so sharp. "Lila," I said softly, "are you going back to the shelter tonight?" She shook her head. "Someone from the exhibit recognized me," she said. "An old friend. They're giving me a place to stay. Just until I figure things out." Relief washed through me. "Good," I breathed. "You deserve that." She touched my arm gently. "Thank you, Ava. For every morning. Every night. Every kindness. You didn't just help me survive. You helped me find my way back to her." My eyes stung. She stepped back. I'll see you both soon. Then she walked away, her figure dissolving into the drifting snow like she was being carried by something gentler than fate. Rowan and I stood there for a long moment, our hands still intertwined. Do you want to walk? She asked. Yeah, I whispered. I do. So we walked through the cold New York morning together. Not as two strangers anymore, but as two people whose lives had just collided in the most unexpected, impossible way. And deep inside me, something whispered, this is only the beginning. Rowan and I walked without direction, letting the city pull us through its cold morning rhythm. The air smelled like snow and exhaust and something else, something that felt like possibility. Our hands stayed linked the entire time, as if releasing each other would break whatever fragile magic had begun forming between us. After a few blocks, Rowan glanced at me shyly. Can I ask you something? Anything. What made you help her? For so long, I mean. You didn't even know who she really was. I thought about it for a moment. About the cups of hot chocolate, the blankets, the countless nights of coaxing Lila toward warmth. About the way she watched the sunrise like she was begging it not to forget her. I helped her because she looked like someone who needed a reminder that she mattered, I said softly. And because helping her made me feel less alone. Rowan's expression softened with something like wonder. You have no idea what that means to me, she whispered. Knowing someone cared for her when I couldn't find her. It feels like you saved something I thought was gone forever. I didn't know what to say, so I squeezed her hand instead. We eventually found ourselves at the edge of Bryant Park. Snow dusted the tops of the chairs like confectioner's sugar. A few early morning skaters glided across the rink. Rowan tugged me toward an empty bench beneath a bare-branched tree. We sat close, shoulders touching, breath visible in the cold. I feel guilty, Rowan admitted suddenly, her voice barely a whisper. Why? For wanting to be here with you. For feeling this, when I should be focused on her. It makes me feel like I'm betraying her somehow. I shook my head gently. You're allowed to feel more than one thing at once. You can love your mother, hurt because of her, and still feel something for me. None of those feelings cancel each other out. Her eyes shimmered and she exhaled shakily. I'm scared, she confessed. Of me. I teased gently. Of everything. Of letting someone in again. Of losing someone again. Of losing myself. My heart tightened. I turned slightly so I could face her fully. Rowan, you don't have to rush anything. I'm not going anywhere. Not unless you ask me to. She studied me for a long, quiet moment. Snowflakes drifted lazily around us, landing on her curls. She looked like a painting. A story captured mid-breath. I don't want you to go, she finally whispered. I didn't realize how deeply I needed to hear that until it left her mouth. Rowan leaned her head against my shoulder. The simple contact was enough to send warmth blooming through me, slow and sweet like honey dissolving in hot tea. For a long time we didn't speak. When she finally lifted her head, there was a softness in her eyes that hadn't been there earlier. A decision. Quiet certainty. Can I show you something? She asked. Of course. She stood, took my hand again, and led me toward a small building by the east side of the park. A studio. Clean windows. A sign that read Rowan Hale Photography. My eyebrows shot up. This is yours. Yeah, she said with a slightly embarrassed smile. I opened it last year. It's still small. I do portraits mostly. Some freelance work for magazines. Weddings too, but only when the couple is nice. I'm guessing you can tell the difference pretty fast, I laughed. Oh, instantly, she grinned. She unlocked the door. The space smelled faintly of wood, paper, and camera oil. Soft diffused light filtered through the windows. Canvases leaned against the walls. Photos hung on clotheslines, drying. It felt like stepping into her heart. She walked to a drawer, pulled out a small box, and handed it to me. I wasn't planning to show this to anyone yet, but I don't want to hide things from you. I opened the box. Inside were dozens of printed photos, all of them of the same subject. Lila, but not homeless, not lost. These were from years ago. Lila laughing in a sunlit kitchen. Lila painting a wall. Lila hugging a much younger Rowan, who had shorter curls and a louder smile. Lila sitting quietly on a pier, staring at the ocean. Rowan watched me carefully, gauging my reaction. She was beautiful, I whispered. She was everything, Rowan replied, voice trembling. Until life got too heavy for her. I didn't recognize the signs. I didn't see how much she was drowning. And then one day she was just gone. I put the photos back into their box and held Rowan's hand, grounding her. You didn't fail her, I said. She didn't disappear because you weren't enough. She disappeared because she didn't think she deserved to be loved. Rowan swallowed hard. I want to believe that. It's the truth. We stood like that, close and quiet, the past gently weaving itself into the space between us. After a moment, Rowan hesitated. Ava, can I show you the picture I took the day I first saw you? My heart stopped. You took a picture of me. She blushed. Well, not exactly of you. You walked past the exhibit while I was setting up. You were carrying a coffee that looked way too hot for someone walking that fast. And you were smiling to yourself, like someone who refuses to let the world harden her. She pointed to a print clipped on the far line. There I was, blurred in motion, surrounded by winter lights. I looked happier than I remembered being that morning. I didn't know who you were, Rowan whispered, but something about you made me take the shot. It felt important. I turned to her slowly. Important how? She took a small step closer, her breath mingling with mine. Like a beginning, she said softly. Before I could respond, her forehead rested gently against mine. Not a kiss. Not yet. Just a tender closeness that held the weight of something delicate and blooming. Ava, she whispered. Whatever happens with my mom, whatever comes next, I want you in my life. Even if we take it slow. Even if it scares both of us. I don't want to lose this. I felt tears prick the corners of my eyes. You won't, I breathed. I promise. Her smile trembled but held strong. Outside, snow began to fall harder, wrapping the city in white. Inside, Rowan pressed her hand to my cheek, tenderness, fragile and sure. And in that quiet studio, with photographs surrounding us like witnesses to our unfolding story, she whispered, Stay. Just a little longer. I'll stay, I said without hesitation. As long as you want. Her eyes softened. Then stay forever. My chest melted. And when she finally leaned in and kissed me, a slow, trembling, gentle kiss, it felt like the smallest, sweetest miracle, the kind that doesn't arrive with fireworks, but with the soft certainty of someone choosing you fully and quietly. Outside, the world kept moving. But inside Rowan's studio, life finally felt like it was beginning. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.